Hello and welcome to another episode of The Kickback. I'm here with Farah Chowdhury. She is the chairperson of the Arsenal Women's Supporters Club. So, welcome, Farah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on here. I mean, I'd say that you're probably one of the first people that I met when I started doing this. And since then, it's just been, I think we've both been on a journey together. Like, we've been supporting each other through a lot of the work that we're trying to do, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I think when I first saw you coming up, I think the first time I saw you, you had your little mini mic when you first started the kickback and you were going around and yeah, going off. I thought, oh, who's that girl? She kind of looks like me. I never see that. And I was quite keen to hear more about it. And then yeah, I think just that we just obviously became friends through football, and then we did a lot of things outside, and yeah, we've done a few events. And yeah, it's just nice to see, especially within our space, for not just South Asian community, but just sort of in our space to see women like yourself who, do this on the side as well as a day job, and trying to create more of an attention and a platform for everyone to share their stories and their journeys. And the kickback has been like very successful, considering you're like, you know you work so differently from football. Your day job is so different, considering like what you've done with it is great to see. So yeah, I can't believe it's taken us this long to actually do a pod, and I'm finally on the podcast. I've been waiting for the call up, so
Well, first I'm gonna say thanks for that. Thanks for that boost of an introduction. And also, yeah, I feel like as if every time we talk, actually, it's a bit of a podcast, isn't it? Because like, I
yeah.
just record all of our conversations and be like, this is the podcast right here. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's taken a while to get everything in order. But I'm glad that you're finally on here because we have so much to talk about. And do you know what? I gotta say, the first time when I went to a match and I saw you, I was like, oh my God, this is like the only other brown person here. Like, oh my God, like I must go and speak. Okay. And I gotta admit, at first I was a bit nervous. I was like, this is the only other brown person here. I have to make sure that, that is cool. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, no, but I'm glad that we've done a lot of work trying to break down barriers and stuff, which has been amazing. And it's nice to actually meet people who are like on the same wavelength. Like we're just doing everything as a community and as a whole, and I think it's amazing. So
yeah, sure.
so first tell me how you actually got into women's football in general.
Yeah, I mean, um, it kind of just started as a kid playing football. I grew up in West London, and I was the tomboy of the family. And I don't really know where football came from, to be honest. I don't come from a sporting family, or my family aren't crazy about sport. So I really don't know what happened, but I was that kid just on the street. My parents worked full time, so I spent a lot of time in youth clubs and after school clubs, and that's where I was just playing and kicking around a football with the boys, and I absolutely loved it. And I think as I got older, I realized I was quite good at it, and I was better than the boys, and it was kind of like weird. I was the only Asian girl playing football, and people were quite surprised by it. And it kind of just went from that, and then you play outside of school, and you join a club, and yeah, things kind of moved on very quickly. And I think when you get to the ages of like 13, 14, um and you start getting approached and you have trials and stuff like that, that's when your parents get involved. And when it got to that age, this was like 15 years ago as well, showing my age a bit, but the game was in a completely different place. And I think when it got to that stage where parents had to get involved, my parents weren't too keen, because first of all, it's like, why? Like I don't really understand why we're doing this. Like, why do we have to drive you 2 hours to train 2, 3 days a week, and you've got school and all of this stuff. So yeah, it kind of, I always knew it was going to come to an end. My goal was never to become a footballer or anything, but I think within that kind of 13, 14 sort of age range, I started to discover women's football. I didn't even realize that women played. I didn't know anything about women's football. But I sort of discovered Arsenal women through that sort of, I guess, trialing stages, trialing at a football club. And yeah, I was like very, very keen to know more about it, but you couldn't really read anything about it. You couldn't, unless you watched the FA Cup every year. There was nothing on women's football. And then yeah, I think I went to uni in North London. So when I was about 18, I thought, okay, I need to go watch this. Like I was a gooner anyway, so I was like, they have this. I hear they have this incredible women's team. I have to go see them, at some point. So yeah, when I was 18, I went to Boreham Wood for the first time. And yeah, I just went down by myself, and you could get tickets on like the turnstiles back in the day. You didn't really have to, yeah, it was empty. There was like probably like less than 100 people. But yeah, I want to say the first game was, I think it was Arsenal against the Doncaster Bells. And that was my first game, and that's where I kind of saw like Rachel Yankee, Alex Scott, Kelly Smith, Ellen White was playing then. I think Steph Wharton was there as well. So yeah, I was Anita Asante was there, and I think for the first time I saw some representation, which I was like, wow, I've never seen this before. And Rachel Yankee was that player that just caught my eye. I was like, wow, this woman is class. And it kind of just started from there, really. And yeah, just been a fan of the women's team on and off, throughout my young teens. And then as I got older, I was always in and out of games, but I think as I got older, it started to become more of a, yeah, the fan base always grew after a major tournament. I think maybe after 2009, I'd say after 2015 World Cup in Canada, and then 2019, you could see a bit more of a consistent fan base, and that's where you started going to the games a lot more consistently, and yeah, it's been, yeah, a very good journey since then. And yeah, here we are.
Wow. That's quite amazing. So you literally, it feels like as if you've kind of been there from like very much the early days of your youth, which is amazing. And I suppose that's kind of where you'd expect people to sort of see the game. And it's nice now that it's really more accessible, whether it's on TV or whether it's getting tickets and going down as well. And I think what you've built up in terms of a fan base and in terms of how people can access information has been really great. But just going back to your younger days when you were sort of like playing with the boys and everything like that, how welcoming was the football environment for you, A, as a young girl, and B, as a South Asian woman?
Um, Playing with the boys wasn't a problem. I never faced any issues with the boys. I actually had some great boys around me. So playing with the boys was never an issue. I think when it got to playing with girls, especially like after like when it went out of school and you started playing for like the borough, for example, and then you're coming across, you're playing against, girls coming up. That's where it started to get a little bit like, okay, I know I look a bit different. Um, and I think I was probably around 12 when I probably encountered my first sort of racism encounter on the pitch. Um, but I was pretty much expecting it, if I'm being honest. So it didn't really, I guess I didn't realize how bad it was. Like, not to say that, I faced it every single game, but like people going hard in a tackle, they'll say a few things, you react. That started to be a bit of a common denominator. But I was expecting it. So I didn't really, I guess I didn't realize until now I look back of how bad it could have been mentally. But I think as a South Asian, girl in sport, a South Asian boy in sport, you do expect that type of language to happen on a football pitch, and it does happen, and we still have racism at the top level right now to this day. But yeah, back in the day it was you know, the ref heard it, the ref is not doing anything about it. You don't really know who to go to. You react, it becomes your problem because the reaction is what people judge you on. So if you react in a bad way, you then become the aggressor. Maybe on a couple of occasions, I lost my rag a little bit on the pitch, but yeah. And then once you start sort of trialing at football clubs, you do feel a bit. a bit kind of lonely, if I'm being honest. People aren't intentionally leaving you out, but there are certain cultural aspects that make you feel a bit left out. It could be something small as just getting changed in the changing room. I'm not used to, it took me a while to be very comfortable just to kind of get changed with everyone because I wasn't, I'd never done that before. Or even like showers, for example. Like I was just, there wasn't, the facilities were terrible, back then at small little clubs. But yeah, just little things like that makes you feel a little bit left out, and you can't really be yourself, and you start to see those cultural blocks very early on. But I knew as I was getting older, my parents they weren't too keen. Like as I get older, like you all know what I'm saying. Like once you get to like 13 and you become a woman and you start your period, for example, in our culture, it's like that's the stage you're becoming a woman, and it's kind of like, why do you still want to play? Like you played as a kid, you've played enough. Like, why are you still doing this? You've got exams coming up, you're getting
Mm,
older, you can't be playing with shorts, and you can't be just out there with the guys and keep playing. And I know it sounds really crazy to say that, but that's what their worries were.
yeah,
And it's a cultural block that I think, hopefully it's changing now as we're going through a generational change, but that was something that was quite hard to deal with. So I never used to come home and tell my mom that, oh yeah, I got into a bit of a scuff today, or this person said this to me, and this was so racist. I can't believe this happened, because if I had said that at home, any excuse to stop playing, right? So I kind of kept it all in. But it does build a lot of strength. I did develop a very thick skin. I was very confident. It was the one thing that I knew I was good at, was football. And I just loved playing. So I might have been a bit shyer off the pitch, but on the pitch, I was like, I didn't really care. I was very fast as a kid. I probably wasn't the biggest, but I was definitely very fast. So yeah, it was definitely tough. And I definitely knew as I got older, look, this is not going to be my career. That was never the plan. Um, but yeah, you do encounter the ignorance, the racism, and just little things that make you feel a bit uncomfortable. But you can't go to someone back in those days, go to a coach and be like, is there a little room I can just quickly get changed in? Or do I have to wear shorts today? Or, just little things like that.
yeah,
Um, so I'd like to say we've left that behind, but we have seen things in the last few months about wearing leggings. Wearing leggings was an issue for a girl recently. And we still see the hate of our people in this community, not just players, but creatives and journalists and stuff like that. So yeah, it's still an issue.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. I mean, I would say it is still definitely an issue. It's probably not as obvious perhaps as it used to be. Like people don't just kind of come up to your face and say what they want to say, all the racist comments and things like that. But we've seen the amount of like online hate that there is.
Mm,
We've seen gestures. We've seen a disparity between like what coaching is like as well, and the opinions of coaches in recruiting people from, a diverse background. We've seen all of that, and there is that element of, is it just education to kind of dispel that ignorance, or is something more needed? And I think that's where the coaching programs, where they're trying to get more diverse people into coaching, into refereeing, can help with those sorts of things as well. But it's about seeing whether people want to do that as well, and again, what are the barriers to that, and what are the barriers to getting into it as well. I mean, despite all of that you've experienced, I think, do you feel like as if everything that you've experienced going through football has kind of given you that motivation to do what you're doing now with the Arsenal Women's Supporters Club?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I don't think my path was ever to play football, but I do think that there was always something in there that I was supposed to go back to the game and work in it in a way that I never planned on doing. I've just been a fan my whole life and never wanted to work in the game. I never thought about that. I went to uni. My day job is very different. Um, but I do feel like it's come back to me for a reason, and that reason is to, be a figure within the fan culture and the fan environment and fan engagement, and you know that has its own issues within diversity and the lack of that we see, and the lack of I guess that vision from football clubs to really kind of capture the diversity that they have in their fan base that they might not actually even know about. So a massive, decision behind before when I put my name forward to join the committee was that, it was always about the diversity. It was always about, okay, if a brown girl is going to lead it, there are going to be things that I'm going to work on. And I do want that representation in there. I'm the only ethnic minority on the committee. I'm the only, ethnic minority around that. And I think I have a different vision when I'm trying to, bring in new ideas or speaking to the club about certain things. And I have a different that aspect and to it. So yeah, for sure. And I think the way the last 3 years has been, being involved in, setting up the red and white, and that led on to the supporters club stuff. And, we kind of created this community in the last 3 years from scratch. And we've always, the supporters club has a very rich history. We celebrate 10 years next year. So, you've got amazing people that have given everything to this and to the fan base and making sure everyone has the best match day experience. But the last 3 years, in particular, the team, myself, everyone involved has it was all about building a diverse and inclusive community for people, because there's still this idea of, these ultras and their environment, and maybe for South Asian people, they might not think this is the environment for them. And I get that people talk to me about it all the time. So I was hoping, to get put your face out there a little bit, which is scary enough in itself, especially the way fan engagement is at the moment in women's football. It is a scary thing to put your face out there, but I think it was really important. So people, like when you first came to a game and you saw my face, and I'm hoping that gave you a little bit more of a warmth. And I'm hoping when more families and more people want to get involved, they're like, okay, well, if there's more people that look like me in in that atmosphere and in that, because we're loud and it's chanty and it can get quite intense, but I think a lot of people feel like it's not for them. But it 100% is. And yeah, I'm trying to break down those barriers and, get to a point where I have a great relationship with the football club. And when I do speak to the club, I don't speak to them like, I'm just a fan. I speak to them as like they would be a client of mine, or they, that's it's important to get things there and educating. I learn things every single day from so many people. And there's so many, that everything we've done we wouldn't be able to do with the club not meeting us halfway. But I think the conversations, the impact, the influence that we're having on women's football as a whole. Arsenal are leading the way in many, many areas. Is certainly not perfect, and there's certainly still so much work to be done. But what's going on behind the scenes, I think it's way more than just atmosphere and tickets now. It's about breaking down some other barriers. And yeah, it is. If I'm being totally honest, I didn't think I'd get this invested. It was just supposed to be a voluntary role. It was just supposed to be implement a few things, atmosphere, tickets, allocations, just improve match day experience and just kind of be there for people. But it's gone way beyond that now. And now, yeah, I'm just trying to, yeah, just try and do the best that I can with it. And yeah, and there's the brown girl leading it, and I'm quite proud of that.
So you've touched upon a little bit about what the Arsenal Women's Supporters Club does.
Yeah.
But by I mean, I still can't believe that is voluntary, to be honest with you, because the amount of stuff I've been in those group chats with all the fans in there asking constant questions and everything like that, and that's in addition to your day job too, and you're trying to like field these questions and you're trying to like sort everything out. Just tell us a little bit about the Arsenal Women's Supporters Club team, what they do, and what is the point of why do you guys exist?
Yeah. So Arsenal Women's Supporters Club is a fan group with a voice for the fans, basically. And we are kind of like that middle ground between club and fans. And it's the main thing is to make sure that we give our fans the best match day experience, and um, we can be the voice for them when we do want to make improvements and we do want to see change. And feeding back to the club is really important. Um, I'll talk about the team in a minute because, like you said, it is very intense, and like we wouldn't be anywhere where we are if it wasn't for the fantastic team that I have because they are incredible superhumans. But it's been going on for 10 years. We celebrate 10 years this year, and it was actually kind of founded by Faye White. And she was kind of that first person to kind of get it off the ground. And one of kind of like the earliest members, actually, she's still a committee member. And she was kind of she's been there from the start. So it's great to still have kind of that experience still with us today. Um, and people have, laid foundations for us over the years, and you have to see what we're doing now is when we took over, we had a brand new demand. We had a kind of a new hype. But the people that have been before us, they were doing all the same work and doing all of this stuff when the crowds weren't full and we weren't playing at the Emirates, and they were starting to build these relationships with the club, and they were doing things before we were selling out. So it was really important that we kept those foundations alive when we took over. And then it was just up to us to take it to another level, and I'm sure people after us will then take what we've done and so on. um the team is incredible. Just to kind of give you context, so we've got a chair, we've got a vice chair, we have a treasurer, we have a secretary, we have a travel coordinator, and then we have committee members, and then we'll have someone that also sits in the board of trustees as well. And together we kind of we deal with everything, and they've all got their day jobs and stuff, but the amount of hours and the amount of time that they give to these fans, and we go above and beyond for a reason. When I think when we took over, we knew we were going to be very active. We knew it was going to interfere in our personal lives, and we knew there was going to be challenges, and trust me, we've faced a lot of challenges, and sometimes it's a really hard place to be. But I think what we have as a group is we work very well together. We're very honest with each other, and we have big goals that we wanna hit. And we extended a little bit last year. We got a couple more people in. We got a travel coordinator in, and those things are just so important now because our away numbers are incredible. Our away numbers going to Europe are incredible. And yeah, the team are fantastic, and I'm very lucky to be part of a very hardworking team. And the main thing is everyone loves this football club. Everyone loves this women's team that we have. But yeah, I'm really really proud of them. They've done so well, and they make my job very very easy. But you know what it's like. You've been in those chats. It's not the easiest place to be sometimes, and especially, with social media and everything like that, sometimes things are so out of your control. But, when things go wrong that are not in your control, it's going to be all your fault. Even though it's got nothing to do with you personally, it comes down to the supporters club. So we know that, and we take that on board, and we know we have to take that sometimes. But overall, I think what we've achieved, especially the relationship with the club, getting it to a point where we're collaborating, and getting us to the point where we know how much impact we're having. And now kind of building relationships with different departments of the club is really, really important. And yeah, I definitely, a personal goal of mine that I've never said out loud was to get to a point where the club need us just as much as we need them. And we've always needed them. We've always needed their backing. None of this would be possible without them hearing our feedback and trusting us. But I think we've delivered on what we've done as a fan base. Um, so yeah, but the work's not done. We talk about it all the time. There's so much more we want to see, and there's so much more that we have to be doing that we're not doing. Um, but that's the kind of overall of what a supporters club would do. Not all supporters club works the same. It's a voluntary position. you do it however you feel is right, however much time you have. But when we started, we kind of, vowed that we were going to be very, very people driven and very active. I don't think anyone anticipated it was going to be this active. But as we've just gotten bigger and bigger, it's there's a lot people need things, and you become people's go-to and first point of contact, and you're there to help, and you're there to make sure that everyone's okay. So yeah, that is definitely a priority of mine, and I want to make sure everyone's having the best match day experience and everyone's happy, really. So yeah.
And I mean, obviously the club does talk about the supporters and the fans so much, as do the players. I mean, how does it feel when it's literally every single match, after every single match, whether it's, the manager, whether it's the players, they always say without the supporters, they wouldn't have been able to do what they did on the pitch. Like, I mean, what kind of feeling does that give you as like a fan base, trying to supporting your team and almost like getting them over the line, you know what I mean?
Yeah, very proud. Whether it's a supporters club, the wider fan base, the dedication from every single Gooner, that you don't have to come to a game week in, week out, and you might just come to one game in the season. But the dedication, the love that people have for this team, and they just want to see this team succeed. And I guess our job as fans, all we have to do is just consistently give them the motivation that they need. And obviously, we have an incredible loud fan base, and we have some incredible chants that we all put a lot of time and effort, and that's a big chat. The singing group chat is a big one. But to see, that started from us in the red and white, and to see how far that's come as well. Yeah, it's great, and the fans have been, a big part of the growth. And I think as well, no one has all the right answers. The game is growing so rapidly. Whether you're a player, CEO, director, no one has all the right answers of the best way to grow this game. So it's like, if we don't collaborate, you know, of course you're gonna have bumps in the road. Things are gonna happen. That's normal. But everyone's just doing their part, so everyone's kind of riding this wave together, which I think is nice, but also gives the fans a very powerful voice right now. And I think you're seeing that this season, like the voices, it's a loud voice out there, and people are going to tell you if they're not happy about something, and you have to take that into consideration, and maybe decisions that have been made or things that have been done this year. I think the fans have played a big part, and I think it's important to really listen. Um, uh, so I think when they talk about the support and they appreciate that, it's lovely to hear, because I live in London, right? So I can't really talk about my travel. I mean, when I complain about traveling up to Manchester or whatever, like, I get absolutely cussed out. But people are traveling thousands and thousands of miles, like, week in, week out, and the dedication is just, yeah, I've never seen anything like it. And everyone's one step ahead, everyone's thinking forward. So if there's a player that's, I don't know, maybe not on the best form or whatever, we'll then concentrate on that player and make sure we do everything in our power to get that player up, and we do that in the supporters club more than anything. So yeah, I think that's really important, and it's it's a fan base that are going to show up week in, week out. And no matter how we're doing, we'll be there shouting and cheering and giving them all the motivation that they need, because, everyone comes out of a bad form or a bad run of games. You
Yeah.
come out of it. So when you come out of it, you want to celebrate. And right now we're on that celebration, and we're on that good form. And yeah, yeah, it feels like years, but we get to see them again tomorrow, which is great. So
It really does
yeah,
feel
I'm very
like a
proud.
long time. It
Yeah, it
does
feels
feel
like
like a long
ages.
time. It's because of the frozen pitch last week. I
Yeah.
was gutted. I was like, oh man, I was really looking forward to it. Sometimes it's really crazy, right? Before you find women's football, you're like, what was I doing before then? Like,
I
how is
know.
this not my mental release? How is this not my stress relief? And now that you
Uh-huh.
found it, it's almost like, why is there a Christmas break? And you kind of just forget that actually, do you know what? Our players need their R&R, and they need to kind of the break is very much needed. But I suppose that brings me on to my next point, which is about the game. Things have changed quite a lot this season. So like especially at the Emirates, like you guys have moved from was it block two
Hmm.
to block two to block 10. So that's the more atmosphere zone. So tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about that, about the move, about what you're hoping to achieve with having that block there.
Yeah, so again, I think it probably shows how far we've come because the conversations started in the summer, and I was very grateful that Arsenal included us in those conversations right from the beginning. Because Block 2 and the allocation was something that, we fought for as a supporters club. And, we do those seating plans, like, we sit there, I sit there, I do the seating plan, I put a lot of time and effort and making sure everyone's kind of happy with their seats. You can't please everyone, of course, but it was very important that we had that allocation last year, last season coming, we created something special at Meadow Park, but to bring that into a massive 60,000 stadium, that was going to take some time. But that year went really well. And then you outgrow one block. So the club wanted to obviously the history of the North Bank anyway was very it was very special. And it was now time to kind of move from one to have one block to have like four, five actually. So block 10, it was going to be sort of supporters club atmosphere allocation, but also the atmosphere now 12, 11, 9, and have everyone in and around, and then let that grow over the years so it could be one one big atmosphere section. So yeah, I mean, we trialed, we put it out in the group and to see people's thoughts. And it's hard moving from block 2 because you got the best seat in the house, you're on the halfway line, it's a great view. So to leave that and then go to block 10, which is probably not the best view in the world, but it was just important that we had the atmosphere. I guess, for a lot of us, sort of atmosphere people, we weren't too fussed about where we sat. It was more about getting the atmosphere, making sure it ran through the entire stadium. I think it's still in its sort of trial days. I don't think it's got off perfectly. I think that's more because there are probably people sitting in those areas as well who probably don't know that it's an atmosphere area. So it's hard to get things going because there are people in and around thinking, why are people standing up and why is this happening? So we're still on that trial error. I think maybe shift the seating plan around a little bit. We are all kind of a bit spaced, so to get us a bit closer together, I might need to work on that for next season. But I think as a whole, I do think I understand why the club wanted it to move, and it's also TV facing as well, and that's what the club wanted. Um, but yeah, it was just growing. It was growing massively, and obviously that area as well. They don't put the tickets on sale seasonally, so it's like for everyone's home advantage packs and stuff, and then they'll sell all the non-packs in those areas as single tickets for each game to see whichever's free. So yeah, it's still a work in progress. It's our first year there. And yeah, we have to put a lot more work into it. But I think I need to shuffle around and get us all kind of more grouped together next season,
Mm.
I think, and then we can really get the crowd going.
And what's your favorite chant?
My favorite chant is well, I obviously belt out Lotta Wubben-Moy.
I was
I
waiting
don't know
for
if you
that.
know, but she's my favorite player. So I do belt that one out. But I think a personal favorite is Laura Wiener. I think that's an absolute tune. And yeah, credit to Joe on that one. I think he came up with that one. And yeah, it's just an absolute belter. And I hope to sing it a lot more as she's slowly coming back. But that is always a good one. And I think this season, Shake It Caldente is definitely taken off. It's always a nice one to sing. But we're going to be trialing out Renee's new one as our permanent gaffer tomorrow. So that I think that's gonna go hard as
Go
well.
on, give us a bit of a the chant. Tell us the chant so people can know what it is and they can join in.
You want me to sing it?
Yeah, man, go for it.
I don't know if I don't know if I want to sing it just when you're singing chants not in football, it sounds so bad. Um But it's kind of like we've got Renee. No, it's not like actually. You might have to cut that bit out. Um, we've got Renee Slagers. She's exactly what we need. Leah at the back, Russo in attack, and Arsenal going to win the Champions League or the Super League. It's kind of along those lines. But yeah, obviously it's going to sound so much better than me just what I've just done there. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I really like it. I mean, you
it's
guys came up
it,
with that pretty quickly, I have to say.
the song chat moves quickly. It moves very, very fast. And we had a few for Renee towards like Christmas, like the last Christmas one. But yeah, no, people are great with them. They come up with them very, very quickly. The standard is high, so it's hard for everyone to agree sometimes. But yeah, that one should go very well, I think, tomorrow.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm at it's the first time, like I said, I'm at South Stand, so I'm hoping I'll be able to hear you guys all the way from North Bank and be
Yeah.
able and get that going. How I mean, obviously now that Renee Segers is the permanent Arsenal women's manager, I mean, I think a lot of us were hoping that that was going to happen. Now that she is in charge, though, what are your predictions for where the club's going to get to in the Champions League and in the Super League?
I think first of all, great decision to keep her on. I think everybody wanted that. To be honest, I don't think anyone could really come in and do a better job than what she's already done. And I think already, coming in under the circumstances that she came into, such a high pressured situation, and she's just got this cool calmness thing about her, very quietly confident. And I think she didn't really come in and make drastic changes, but she certainly shifted the culture. And instantly, the girls seemed a lot more at ease, and you saw some smiling again, and you just saw everyone happy being out there, which I think is great for morale and number one priority. I think the culture has to be great for them to perform. I think we're on incredible form at the moment, and it's all in our hands. Um, Obviously the WSL is completely out of our control now. So obviously very unlikely that we could do something special in the WSL unless, Chelsea go on a terrible run of form, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I think the Champions League is historic, over the years, especially a couple of years ago, that year, there was no way we were supposed to make a semi-final, with basically no squad, and everybody was out with ACLs. But there's something quite special about the way the girls turn up for Champions League. We're not talking about the Bayern Munich away game,
We'll
obviously,
just
because
forget that one.
that
That
just
one doesn't
that
exist.
was just like, that we're not going to think about that. But generally, I think it's like a clean slate for them to just kind of pick up where they left off, and nothing is out of their reach. Champions League, I really, really want to, with this fan base, I want to go to Wembley and I want the FA Cup. And I think that has to be up there as top priority. And obviously, the Subway Cup, obviously is a tradition to go and win it. So obviously I want to retain that. But I think Renee is coming into a very important part of the season in the best time. Confidence seems great. Everyone seems happy. Everyone seems confident. We're getting people back from injury. And it's about just keeping it consistent, because that's been our issue in the last few years. We'll go on a good run, then stops. We then go on a bad run and we lose it all. Um, but I think, we have to bring back more silverware. We need trophies. Otherwise, you know, nothing really counts if you don't bring trophies back. But yeah, I mean, to have the Champions League still in our sights, the FA Cup, and obviously the Subway Cup as well. Yeah, it's ours to lose, I think.
It's crazy though, like just mentioning those three cups, like there is so much football that's actually on the calendar.
Mm,
And to be honest with you, it kind of baffles me the amount of games that they're having to play, the amount of schedules that they basically have to juggle to make sure that things don't overlap, that they get enough R&R, which I don't think they're getting, to be honest with you. And obviously,
yeah,
we just heard, like even today, Lily Ag, she's suffered an ACL injury, which means that we've got
yeah.
three more three more ACL injuries in addition to what was already there. I mean, what do you think about the football calendar? And what do you think needs to probably need to go or be changed in order to make sure that things are sustainable?
I think the schedule is crazy. They get obviously that I think the biggest break they get is obviously I mean in the season is their Christmas break. But I think it's insane. Like, we've got the game on Sunday, we're back on Wednesday, like it's all midweek games. So they're playing every 2 days basically, if you're in all competitions. And I think, a squad of that size, obviously rotation is key, but at the same time, with some games you need your best players, you need your best squad, and you don't want to change too much. So I think yeah, I think the schedule is really, really tough. And I think the injuries and what can come from that playing that much football is just you're just not going to get the best from the players. And every player will be at some point will sustain some form of injury because the games are just too much and they're too much in demand. This even starting the season, like this qualifying tournament for the Champions League is ridiculous. Like just take it away. Like just play one qualifying game. I don't know why there's this mini tournament because it starts quite early, especially obviously this year no major tournament, but we will next year, and hopefully we do make Europe. But if we don't, like that's just insane, and that's exactly what happened to us last year. Everyone was coming off the World Cup. They go straight into this mini tournament. We don't qualify. You then have big teams missing out on the Champions League, and Champions League, you need the best teams in the world in there. Um, what competition I'd get rid of? I don't know what I'd get rid of, to be honest. I mean, the Conti Cup, Subway Cup, whatever you want to call it, has just become like an Arsenal thing. So I'd feel really sad if that went away. But if we're getting rid of a competition, then that's probably the one that I would. But I have we've had such amazing memories over the last 2 years with that. So yeah, but I do think the scheduling needs to be better planned. And yeah, major tournaments, I think, as well have to come into consideration because there's going to be one nearly every other year, if not every year. So yeah, it's really tough. I don't know how you get around that, unless you're considering taking out a tournament.
I suppose, and the other thing is, even nationally, like we've got the Nations League starting up again, and then
Yeah,
you've got the Euros happening in the summer as well. So then, with the Euros happening in the summer, when do they get a break? And
they
then,
don't really, do they? Like, I think a major, like a tournament, yeah, they probably get like 8 days,
mm,
8, 9 days, maybe, like just under 2 weeks, just to recover. Which is not that's not sustainable, I don't think. And you got some of the best, you got the best players in the world, they're not going to have lengthy careers. There's no reason why a player can't continue playing until they're 35, 36. That's just not going to happen unless they retire from international early. And why should they have to do that?
mm.
Uh, and so many players have sacrificed that, Kim Little being, a big one. She retired from Scotland quite early in her career. So, sacrifices that players might have to make if they want to have a bit more of a longevity in their career. But they just won't make it. They won't make it that far. They'll end up retiring very early if they keep going at this rate. And then the ACLs, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. Um,
Mental resilience as well. Like
yeah,
we've seen lots of people, like Mary Fowler, for example, taking a break because of mental health, and I think
yeah,
it's valid. Even same with Vivian Miedema, break before, but mental health break. I think it's needed. Otherwise, it's just too demanding. And I'll be honest with you. I really worry about that. I do worry
yeah,
about that for our players. I worry about that a lot. Um, and I feel like as if I don't know the demand that there is for women's football obviously is one of the reasons why we have, as many games as we do. But it also is because they're trying to build up that revenue as well and trying to get more money into women's football and things like that. But
yeah,
at what cost? Like we're not gonna have any players to watch the way that things are going on at the moment. Um we can see how much it's hurting some of the clubs. We look at Man City when they played against Barcelona. They had a depleted squad, and they didn't perform to what we know them to perform as. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
So we've seen the impact of that in more ways than one. And I think that player care has kind of almost taken a bit of a backseat. And I feel like as if it needs to be at the forefront of people's mind, not on the
Mm,
back of people's mind. And I don't like the way like how demanding they are, even from a media schedule as well. Like having to do so much of that eats into your downtime, how much time that you have to just rest and relax. And it's not that it's just like a 2 hour thing, yeah, go and do a shoot, blah, 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 blah. We've both been on a shoot day, and that day was long as hell, like, oh my God. And you just think, nah, nah, like it's again, it's not sustainable. Yeah, we get you have to promote, but this much is a lot.
yeah. And I think, kind of what you said, like at what cost, because, they know the demand of the fans and that community now, the demand is so high, and they're also trying to build things for themselves, and they don't get paid well enough. Like unless you're a top flight player, you're still fighting for your career and earning that money that, and earning a career for yourself after football, because they don't get paid nearly enough to support them when they retire. So they're doing all these extra things to give themselves a better future. And yeah, the media duties and what they do, yeah, I can't imagine how busy their schedules are. um and yeah, it definitely should, it will play on them. I think the investment in player care, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I'm sure every club is different, but the budget, I'm sure the top clubs have probably got more budget for that player care. But your middle stage clubs, your lower league clubs, your lower tabled clubs are, I doubt they would have that much of a budget for player care.
Mm.
Um, so I think at the top where it's going so well, there is such a massive gap between top, like I'm talking Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, and then that middle kind of ground to like the lower clubs at the bottom of the league, like, and that's just the WSL championship. Let's not even go there just yet, but like the gap is so huge. um and that needs to become more consistent in terms of investment and funding. And that, it's like I said, there's still so much work that needs to be done around those areas. But the game is growing so rapidly, that everyone needs to keep up as well at the same time. So yeah, it's a really tricky one.
It is 'cause investment needs to keep up too. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like there is that demand, but the investment needs to keep up too. And we've seen what's happened with like Man United women, for example. They're not investing in Man United women anymore.
I mean, it's just a joke. Like it's absolutely a joke. I mean, Jim Ratcliffe is just a joker. Like he's just an absolute clown. Um, and to literally come out and say that I'm not doing anything for my women's team unless my men need to achieve this, and your men are nowhere near to what what they should be achieving. It's just horrible to see. Like it's really, really awful to see. And I can't imagine being a Man United women's player and reading stuff like that and knowing that you're just not priority. Like, you know, how are you going to attract the best talent? How are you going to grow? So it's really, really
Exactly.
tough, I think. And it's probably an area of football that many people obviously don't go that, they don't talk about as much. Because on the outside, it's fantastic.
Yeah, on the outside, it looks amazing, nice and shiny,
Yeah.
and you get to see your favorite players play, and you get to see them, blah 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 blah. And then, but you never really know what's going on behind those closed doors and things like that. And I think, obviously, football is very opinionated, and I think that's the other thing: the opinions versus truth,
Mm,
is what it is at the moment. And you hear a lot of things. With people I talk to, I hear a lot of things, and then your experience can be completely different to what other people say as well. And
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, lots of things like that happen too. So let's talk about obviously now Arsenal women. They got a lot of criticism in one of their team photos for basically, for a lack of diversity.
Mm,
Now, obviously, we're both Arsenal women's fans, and a common question I always get is, how can you support a team that's not particularly diverse?
yeah.
Yeah. So, firstly, that question, right? And then secondly, um, Why do you think that is, and what do we need to do?
So when I first when the red and white sort of popped up and then I became sort of chair and part of the committee, I actually got trolled a lot. A lot of people going into my DMs. I don't even know if they're Arsenal fans. I think just I don't know where I don't know if they're fans, but getting trolled so much about that. Why are you putting all your effort into doing this when the club just don't care enough? I don't think that's the case. I don't think the club that's not a priority or that's not something that they want to improve because it's visible. It's a visible issue that they have, and people are questioning it. When I saw that team photo as well, I thought it's just so disappointing to see, um, because there is so much talent out there, and I'm talking like just on the street, like there's so much talent out there. I think it's it goes all the way back to grassroots, and it goes to that pathway, but it also the systems. I mean, the systems within the pathway, the people who are coaches at that level, working at that level, um, liaison officers, scouts. I think there is, and listen, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I think, you know, if if you're going to become something, then it's so much more than just having talent. You need that emotional support from family. You need that support from on and off the pitch. And for some people, they don't have that luxury of having that family or parents or guardians to drive them to all these places after school. I mean, I'm around so many incredible football mums, and what they do on a weekly basis for their kids, for their girls, is unbelievable. But sometimes I think about it, I'm thinking my mom would never do this. Not because my mom doesn't care and not because my mom isn't great. My parents are incredible. But for them to understand that football can actually be something is really hard. And especially as a girl as well, from an ethnic minority group as well, is really tough. And I just think maybe a bit of understanding on cultural barriers is actually making a difference, whether you take someone from you scout someone from a team and they go into academy. But if you look at the academies at the moment, you're not seeing enough, knowing that we live in the most diverse country in the world. You're still not seeing enough. So I don't even know when that picture is actually going to change massively. I mean, Arsenal obviously have some incredible academy players coming through from different ethnic backgrounds. You have Vivlia, you got Michelle, you've got a handful in there, but it's still nowhere near enough. And I'm talking multicultural as well. Um, but if you look at the academies right now, I just don't know what that grassroots pathway is, and how, because that's where it's going to change. It's not going to change in any other way. Um, but that has to be a priority for the FA, and that has to be a priority for the London FA. And I'm sure there are things going on behind the scenes. And I know from people that I talk to, like, people are speaking about it, how much of a priority it is. I just don't know, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know how much of a priority it is in women's football, because on the outside, if you don't follow women's football, you would think it's very diverse, because there are aspects to our game that is diverse. Um, you can be whoever you want to be, and it's probably the one place where you can be true to yourself, and you're in a very inclusive group that ticks one area of diversity. Um, but there are so many other boxes that aren't ticked, that I just don't know if it's a huge priority as people talk about. So you do have big players, you do have, people doing great things like Lotta, goes very under the radar and fights for diversity, inclusion, and giving young girls the access that they deserve. But she was born and raised around Hackney, so I guess she's been around it. And I think that's where her educational piece comes from. And we've heard Lotta speak, outside of Arsenal and stuff, and but we just need more of that, because they're the ones that can really make a difference, and we can keep doing what we want to do. But I just don't know how much of a priority it is. I could be completely wrong.
No, I think you're
But
really out loud like that. We're not the priority. It just makes you feel like as if, I don't know. Sometimes it makes you feel like as if what's the point? The other half of it makes you feel like
I
as
mean,
if
how many conversations that we've had, and I'm just like, oh, I just don't know if I can keep doing it. I just don't know, like, why am I doing this?
yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Why am I like,
But you
why am
know,
I
it takes
continuing to do it
one
all?
it takes one organization, it takes one club, it takes one player, it takes one person. It doesn't take a lot of people to actually spotlight. They spotlight things so much. Like I know we discussed this before, but like organizations would already be planning Black History Month already, right? How many organizations do you think are planning South Asian History Month? How many organizations did we speak to say, hey, let's do something for South Asian Heritage Month, and they turned around and said no? How many times have we had those conversations and we've had no's come back to us without any reasoning as to why? It makes us feel like as if, oh, so we don't actually belong in this space then. That's what the no's tell us, that we don't actually belong in this space.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really hard when you're trying to convince people that we're not that type of environment. Um, but people are gonna just be sick of just seeing my face in those fan walk pictures or Arsenal pictures. You know, we need to see more. And there are more. I know there are more. I just don't think we're showcasing it as well as we can. We try and do it as much as we can as a supporters club, but it's just like I would love just a little bit more insight. I would like to get in a room and have a real honest conversation. And we're here to help. This is the thing, we're here to educate, and we don't have all the answers. We're learning every single day. We're
Mm,
not experts in D&I, but we've got stories, and storytelling is the key of women's community. Everyone has a story. The whole reason why this is growing so rapidly is because people probably this is the first time where people felt like they belong. But there are still people out there that feel like this community and this environment isn't for them.
mm.
Um, it's just really it is really sad, and it's really disheartening at times, because you feel
But
like you're
you
not
have
seeing a change.
But you have tried to change that because, like, I recall, like, for South Asian Heritage Month, like Arsenal Women Supporters Club spotlighted, the fan base who are South Asian and told their stories. That has never been done before, period, on any
Mm.
platform. In football, it's not been done before. Arsenal Women Supporters Club were the first to do that. I will say that hands down. I've never seen anything like it before. And that evolved. I get it, that evolved from a conversation that we were having, right? And this is the great thing about networking. This is the great thing about talking to people, isn't it? You generate so many ideas about how we can actually create change together, isn't it? And then from that, you literally did this whole campaign, like, right, this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna do it. And you just blitzed it. You did it.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I, it was something that I was always going to do this year. And it was really important. And visibly, you didn't really see many major outlooks shining a light on it. I know it probably in terms of, big platforms and big broadcasters. Obviously Sky Sports did, but we know Miriam was behind that, and that is amazing. But other than that, you don't really see it. And I know for a fact how diverse this fan base is. So it was important to showcase it. And when I actually put the call out just, telling the group what I'm going to be doing and people get in touch, the response was so incredible. It actually made me really emotional because all these people reached out and wanted to be involved. And you saw people like Alex Scott commented on Abiha's, and you see like Yanks, sent me acknowledged it, and she's always been great and supporting us. But you just hear people's stories and you get to know people, and it was the same time that the riots happened. It happened in South Asian Heritage Month, and the riots was such a telling time as well to see where people's priorities were, because no one spoke about it. No one even,
Nobody.
no club even acknowledged like, are our fans okay? Are they safe? Because I tell you for one thing, we've all dealt with racism, but I don't think we've ever been fearful to leave our house. But
Never.
we did. We sold our Emirates Cups tickets. We didn't go. Um, Everyone that I had spotlighted, because I'd been speaking to them, we all reached out to each other straight away, like, is everyone okay? And then I thought Arsenal might put out something. I didn't expect them to, obviously, but like, then obviously we had a chat and we were talking about why aren't big people, putting out statements and just making sure everyone's okay. So it was actually really bad. Um, like I had to make sure like my mom and dad didn't leave the house for that week. Like that's how bad it was and scary. But I remember just, having that chat with you, and I thought I have to make sure that our supporters club is okay more than anything, and our fans are okay. So we obviously put a statement out, and I have to say, writing that statement, I'm not a hugely emotional person, but I was so emotional. I had tears, going down my face while I was writing it. And again, when it went out on social media, and the chats, the outpour of people just breathing a sigh of relief, like, thank you for saying something. Like, I don't care, it's not from Arsenal, but it's from a part of Arsenal, and people just felt relieved. And it was important to say in that message, like, please reach out. Like, even if you just want a little chat, or you just want to walk to the station with me or with someone, it was just important to make people feel like they're safe. But because it involved, I don't know, us, it was our community that was being attacked, it just felt like it wasn't important again.
Yeah. Which I really struggled with that. I still struggle with it actually. I still haven't worn like an England shirt since the riots have happened. Like I still haven't done it. I still haven't worn it, even though
Mm.
England have played games and stuff like that. I still haven't been able to because every time I put it on, I just get this feeling inside that almost like a lack of belonging. Like because
Yeah,
nobody said anything, and it was just like, oh, so. I support you, but you don't see me. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't see our people and stuff like that. And it was just I don't know. It was just being really. I even have a lanyard. I actually have like a lioness's lanyard. And I haven't even been able to wear it. I tried it once. I was like, okay, I'm feeling all right. Let me try it. Let me try wearing it. Put it for work and stuff. And couldn't do it. I had to take it off because automatically this feeling just came over me, and it was just like, nah, I can't do it. Can't do it. And it's so weird. It hasn't dissipated, and it's still because still nobody has said anything. Still nobody has said anything. And I
I
get in the
know.
contract sometimes it says in there that you can't talk about political stuff and all that kind of thing. This isn't political though. This is human lives. This is your fan base. Even just saying, I hope everybody's all right out there is all right. Do you know what I mean? But nobody even
Yeah,
said that.
I know. And probably one thing I don't think I've ever said out loud before, and I think, because I'm chair, and I deal with so many people and stuff, but there's still a little part of me, and it's not down to anyone, it's not down to anything, but there's still a little part of me that feels like it isn't my space. It's really weird to say that because of how active I am in the space, and you see me chanting and being a lunatic sometimes. But there is still an aspect that it's not my space. Like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I at the front of the fan walk, or like, why am I can't explain it. I just feel like there's an aspect that it's not my space,
Which
you
is
know?
really sad because, like you said before, we talk about the space being inclusive, and everybody feels like as if it is, like as if it is, a place that they belong. But like you said, sometimes we just there's no, like you said, there's no real explaining it, but it is a real thing that kind of exists, and I think it does stem from a lack of acknowledgement of, the diversity within the fan base. I think it does stem from there though. It is that acknowledgement. And I remember you did so Arsenal spotlighted you as with the Arsenal Women's Sports Club, welcoming in the new chair and everything like that. And I remember you telling me that, after that post went out, you did get a bit of you got a few
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah.
If you
I
wanna
guess I didn't realize how many people had an issue with me being chair.
It's ridiculous.
Um, no, I wouldn't say they're Arsenal fans. I wouldn't say they're even in this fan base, to be fair. I just think it's people
Mm.
just racist people wanting to hate. Like when you see like the DMs that were coming through, because obviously I'm private, but it was a collab post. So obviously you get the requests, and these aren't football fans. These aren't women football fans. These are just people who have seen it. However they have. They could be football fans, but I doubt they're Arsenal fans, to be honest. but it was just people in general that would just, yeah, not happy about it. And then you have kind of the flip side of maybe your own community kind of throwing some shade as well, because why are you doing this? So it's a hard one because it really is. It like it's so hard to say that we're really trying to change the diversity in the fan culture when it is a very inclusive group. I just want people to understand that this is your place as well. It's everybody's
Mm.
space. And it is. It's a fantastic group. You talk to how Arsenal has saved people, how Arsenal is people's everything. They've met their best friends, they met their partners. They really feel like this is their space, and that's what's so incredible about. That's why I'm still doing it because it is such an incredible space. There's just areas that I just feel like could be showcased better, and that goes beyond us because we're just volunteers, you know.
Yeah.
It goes beyond us, but there's just yeah elements of I think understanding that cultural aspect of it of why sometimes you feel like you don't belong because it's got nothing to do with anyone. Like everyone is fantastic, everyone is
Mm.
so lovely and so welcoming. But in your own skin, you just feel that. And that's happened throughout our whole life in football. Like I said, when I was a kid, no one ever made me feel unwelcome. I just felt different, you know? So that's what I mean when I say sometimes I feel like it's not my space. The space is incredible because we've created this incredible space and I put everything that I have and the team put everything that they have into making this such a positive environment. And we get to travel Europe together and we get to do all these incredible things that we wouldn't do if we weren't as close. But yeah, there's just, aspects of it that's just there's still a lot of work to be done. Let's put it like that. And there's only so
Yeah.
much we can do. And yeah, but yeah, I did get trolled a little bit. I always get a little bit of racism trolling, to be honest. Whether it's like yeah, so I think over the last year I've kind of kept myself a little bit more calmer in terms of like being very shouty or very like how I was back in the day with chants and standing on tables and stuff. And maybe a little bit more low key. There's other people to do that. But yeah, I still have it at the back of my mind that someone might see me and someone might say something or might, you know, say something online or troll me later. But I think I'm a lot more stronger. Like it does go over my head. Like obviously the that post thing and the riots trolling did get to me. But in terms of like other stuff, um, I couldn't give a shit. Sorry, am I allowed to
No,
swear?
you're allowed. It's fine. But look, I agree with you, but at the same time, I'm kind of like you shouldn't have to kind of, you know, dim yourself a bit. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't have to change who you are just because of the things that you face, which is not fair and it's not nice. And I think sometimes that's the fear element as well. That sometimes
I
in the
do get a bit
back of my
paranoid.
mind, yeah,
Yeah, I do get a
paranoid.
bit
Yeah,
paranoid. And I feel sometimes I feel bad because like, on like socials and stuff, like I do want to connect with everyone
mm,
and my socials are private and sometimes I get like requests and stuff and I could have met someone at a game, but I don't know that that's them following me and sometimes I decline the request and I feel really bad because I feel like, oh, what if I actually met this person? But I get really paranoid when I don't know the person or it's a football
yeah,
profile because my Instagram is private. I've got my family, I've got people on it. So sometimes I feel bad, but I think I'm just a bit paranoid sometimes. Like
yeah.
this could be like an absolute hater, like wanting to
Exactly.
absolutely destroy me.
You don't know. You don't. Sometimes you don't know what people's intentions are.
Yeah.
I still remember during the riots. Yeah, I was going to an event in London, and I was just like, I know London's diverse and everything like that, but it was the first time in my life that I actually felt like as if I felt afraid. And I'm not usually the kind of person that is actually afraid of going out. I'm normally the person that if I'm with my friends, I'm the one that's protecting them. Do you know what I mean? When we go out. It's the first time where I felt like as if, oh man, because of the color of my skin, I legit might actually get attacked or something like that. And I was going to an event, and ironically, I was going to an event with like four of my white friends, and they're like, oh, we'll meet you at the station, yeah, so we can walk together. And they purposely felt like as if they had to do that. And just to make sure that, we felt safe and everything. And that should
Yeah.
never be the case, to be honest with you. That should never happen. That should like never even enter like like your mind. But do you know what? It was also a bit of a wake up call for for some of my white friends because they were like, do you know what? We've never had to think like this either. Like we've never had to think about, whether our friends who are from diverse backgrounds, whether they need that protection, and they're like we're not anything special, we're just people. But the fact that we have to even think like this is crazy. It's absolutely bizarre. My mom was completely unaware of all of these things that were happening because she doesn't really watch the news and all that kind of stuff. And I literally had to put her off me like, Mom, do not go into town, whatever you do. Mom, don't go out the house for, saying like that. She's like, but why? I don't understand why. I don't, there was all of that going on as well. And so then we had to really explain to her and break it down for her. And obviously, mom and dad have been through all that kind of stuff before, like in the 70s and all of that. You've seen it.
Mm.
But this was like a whole new era of what could happen type of thing. But I think it's a missed opportunity as well for football that they could have really shown that they are absolutely against everything that was happening around that time. Even Kick It Out didn't say anything. It was only after I basically made like a story, and I tagged everybody in it that hadn't said anything who should have said something. It was only after that they must have had a lot of tags from a lot of people doing exactly the same thing, saying like, why haven't anybody said anything? Then they released a statement to say XYZ, like how they didn't support it. But this is the kind of stuff I think, it's the kind of stuff that we have to do to kind of try to champion change as well. Like that's all that we can do. I'm not in any position of power or anything like that. All I can do is try to move a couple of pieces and places and things like that, and try to network and talk to as many people as possible to be like, when you're making decisions, think about who's in the room and whether it's truly inclusive. Do you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
that's all I can do. Okay, if there was a message that you wanted to put out to everybody that's listening, what would you like to say to them?
Um, I'd probably, oh, that's a tough one. I'd probably just say it's very important, especially the way things are going right now. It's a cliche, but I think everyone just needs to have a kinder approach. I know there are a lot of opinions out there. I think there's ways of going about things. So I think just listening and being a little bit kinder to everyone, I think goes a long way. And yeah, I'd probably just say, I think always lending a bit of a helping hand to people that need it, because there's always someone who's going through something worse than you are. So I think, we have a great privilege of what we're doing, and being part of a community. We could help so many people, and we try to do that, like, with what we do. So I think just continue to do that. And yeah, it's hard sometimes when you have these conversations because it feels quite negative, and you don't want to be negative, and you want to be continuously positive, but there are important things that obviously needs to be said. And yeah, yeah, I'm always quite conscious. I don't want to make it too negative, but it is important to speak about things that you want to see a change in.
Mm. Thank you so much, Farah. It's been, again, such an enlightening conversation. It always is when I'm speaking with you as well, and it's always nice and I'll probably
No,
see you
thank you.
tomorrow.
No, thank you for having me. And again, what you're doing is incredible. And yeah, I'm always here.